Questions on the first round, the gentleman from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just initially, I wanted to make the observation, Mr. Chairman, according to the pre-sentence report, Mr. Beal is looking at between 30 and 37 months in federal prison for about a $900,000 loss. You get more time in prison for that, for stealing a six-pack of beer if you threaten that you have a weapon, which you really don't have. You get more time in prison for that for a very small amount of certain control substances. Even though he refused to answer our questions, Mr. Sullivan, did you interview Mr. Beal?
My staff did, sir.
Did you advise him of his Fifth Amendment right?
At the time of the interview with him, it was with counsel, it was in the U.S. Attorney's Office of proffer, and that was not necessary. It was per written agreement, he would cooperate with us.
All right, so you had an agreement with him that he would cooperate. Did that agreement also include that he would cooperate with other entities that were investigating wrongdoing?
At the time, the agreement was the proffer meeting, and it was up to the U.S. Attorney whether he would accept it or not. So it was a limited agreement.
He's getting a 3-level reduction in his guideline range for cooperation. That's super acceptance of responsibility. And yet this morning, he wouldn't answer a single one of Chairman Iss's questions. So I guess my question is anyone going to go before the district court judge and make sure he or she knows that Mr. Beal wouldn't even answer this branch of government's questions? He answered you can't plead guilty without waiving your Fifth Amendment privilege. So he waived it for the judge, and he waived it for the executive branch when you wanted to talk to him or when the U.S. Attorney wanted to talk to him, but he wouldn't waive it for Darrell Issa when he wanted to talk to him. Well, can I rest assured that the sentencing judge will be made aware of that?
Well, what we will do, Mr. Gowdy, is we will brief the U.S. Attorney, AUSA, on the case, and we'll bring your concerns forward to the U.S. Attorney assigned to the case.
Yeah, I just find it stunning that you would want to avail yourself of the maximum departure from the guidelines that you can get for acceptance of responsibility and still sit here and not answer a single solitary question from a co-equal branch of government. Ms. Maloney asked a question that I thought was an extremely good question. Actually, she asked a bunch of really good questions, but I never heard an answer to this one. Is there a policy or procedure in place to investigate conflicts of interest between those who approve bonuses and those who receive bonuses? Not all at once.
The only requirement I know of, Congressman, is a financial disclosure requirement of all the senior officials.
So in theory, Mr. Brenner could be approving financial bonuses or other financial incentives for someone that he has a financial stake in whether or not they get more money. Is that within the realm of the possible? Because it certainly sounds like that's what went on.
Well, I'm not going to speculate on what's possible, but...
Why not?
Because I'm going to wait to read what the IG investigative report...
Well, if you're not going to speculate on what's possible, my next question is this. If Mr. Chaffetz or Jimmy Jordan told Chairman Issa that they weren't going to be here for a couple of weeks because they were CIA operatives, how would Mr. Issa go about verifying whether or not, and I'm going to be very clear, to date, neither Mr. Chaffetz nor Mr. Jordan have alleged that they're CIA operatives, but if that were to happen, how would Mr. Issa go about investigating whether or not that was true?
I can't answer that.
Well, the next person who claims it at your agency, how will you go about investigating whether it's true?
Under the current rules, as Mr. Sullivan pointed out, if there's an interagency relationship with that agency, the general counsel and the head of the agency would know.
So, what, a phone call?
I don't know what the process
is. That what we're talking about, Mr. Sullivan? A phone call to verify whether or not someone really is a secret agent with the CIA?
Well, I testified earlier, sir, that in 2008, a new directive came out. I think it's Intelligence Directive 304, which requires the Director of National Intelligence to inform the head of an agency and the agency's general counsel if one of their employees is working undercover for the CIA.
Mr. Sullivan, I appreciate that. And it really doesn't matter whether you're a new Earth guy or an old Earth guy, but 2008 just seems a little late to be figuring out that with one phone call, you can decide whether or not someone who's claiming to be a spy and traveling first class and racking up $900,000 in unwarranted compensation really does work for another agency. Look, I understand technology has progressed a lot. 2008 just seems a little late for us to figure that out. There was nothing in place prior to that.
Well, sir, clearly the officials at the time, going back to the 90s through the 2000s, could have checked his story. No one did. It took us in the IG about a week, using our contacts at the CIA, to positively confirm he had absolutely no relationship with the CIA. We were able to determine early on he's never had a security clearance. So right now, and when he was an employee, he was not allowed to see classified material because there was no security clearance on file with the EPA Office of Security.
I thank the gentleman. I just want to hear one more time. Since 2008, the head of each agency is given a list of anyone who is a clandestine agent working under their cover.
That's my understanding, Mr. Chairman, from Intelligence Directive 304. It's on the Internet. And it pretty much explains that the requirement of the Director of National Intelligence and the CIA to inform executive branch agencies.
So Secretary Clinton would know everyone at the State Department, and her deputy would know everyone who was CIA implant. The EPA directors, each of them, or administrators, each would have been given this information. So if the administrator had even one person who was embedded, they would know that. We don't need to know if they have one, but if any agency had an embedded CIA person, they would have, in fact, had a list, and he would not have been on it since 2008.
That's right. That's my understanding, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I share with the gentleman from South Carolina his outrage, but 2008 was a long time ago, too. I seem to remember George W. Bush was president then.
I defer to the chairman's recollection.
With that, we go to the gentleman from Maryland.
Dawkins, I understand that Mr. Beal's fraud was initially uncovered by the EPA Karen Administrator, Gina McCarthy, back when she was Assistant Administrator of the Office of Air and Radiation. Is that right? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm talking to you. I understand that the Administrator McCarthy started asking questions about Mr. Beal's employment status after she discovered that Mr. Beal was still being paid many months after she had attended his retirement party. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Sullivan, I understand that your investigators interviewed the administrator. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And the time that the Administrator McCarthy started asking questions about Mr. Beal's status, can you tell us whether she believed that Mr. Beal was a CIA agent, and why did she think that was the case, if she thought that was the case?
Yes, she most definitely thought Mr. Beal worked for the CIA. When she was confirmed by the Senate and had her in-briefing in 2009, she was told she had a member of her staff who was on the CIA, and that was Mr. Beal. And indeed, when she met Mr. Beal, he told her he worked for the CIA.
So who would have told her that?
It was during her in-briefing process. She couldn't recall exactly who told her, but she remembered distinctly being told that during the in-briefing process.
And so if it would not be unusual for somebody coming in to be confirmed in a position comparable to hers to be told that you got somebody here that's with the CIA or any other agency?
Yes, sir. I mean, she assumed that was part of the regular process. That's what she was briefed on.
Now, the Inspector General has criticized the EPA for not referring Mr. Beal to him earlier. Mr. Perciasepe, can you tell us why there was a delay in the referral to the Inspector General? What was the EPA doing during that period, and why did it take so long? Because I think this is kind of crucial, because I'm seeing where some of the questioning is going, and I think they're fair questions. And if you have an answer, I want to know the answer.
Well, I can give you an explanation. When Assistant Administrator McCarthy, who I want to point out once again, no one ever questioned this for over a decade, questioned this. The first thing she wanted to do and the first thing she wanted to see was whether or not this person had any of these relationships that are being discussed. So she asked the General Counsel and the Office of Resource Management, where our personnel folks are. They asked the Office of Homeland Security, who has relationships with the intelligence community. And when nothing could be found there, I think it was quickly and confirmed then quickly, as Mr. Sullivan just mentioned, it was quickly referred to the Inspector General. You know, that is what happened. Those are facts. That is what happened. There was absolutely no attempt to go around the IG at all. It was only an attempt to verify the story. And once it was not verifiable, then it became a matter that it needed to be investigated. Now,
Mr. Sullivan, I know that the Inspector General's office has criticized the EPA for referring Mr. Beale's case to the IG's office no sooner. We fully support the IG's efforts, so I want to give you a chance to explain more detail why this was a problem.
Mr. Cummings, was a problem because Mr. Beale, based on the evidence based on the suspicions that were given to us on February 11th, it was clear to us there was a lot of evidence pointing to a massive fraud against the agency. And a lot of this evidence was available, should have been referred to us much, much earlier. Specifically, the problem we had with the Office of Homeland Security, the gentleman or representatives of that office interviewed Mr. Beale twice and had 3 other contacts with him. And that's basic 101 in law enforcement investigations. You never interview the target of the investigation until you have all your facts in a row. And our investigation was severely hampered because Mr. Beale was alerted that
he had a heads up.
Was up. Exactly.
Yeah. And finally, just to give credit where credit is due, this fraud had been going on for decades under both Republican and Democratic administrations. Is that right?
That's correct, sir.
But it was Administrator McCarthy who finally exposed it. Is that right?
To my knowledge, Ms. McCarthy was the first executive at EPA that ever questioned Mr. Beale's relationship to the CIA.
And so you credit her for exposing it, is that right?
Yes, sir.
In your opinion, is it possible that this fraud could have gone undiscovered if it were not for Administrator McCarthy's actions? That's my last question.
I think it's highly likely, had it not been Ms. McCarthy raising the alarm, this never would have been discovered.
So Beale, he'd be still getting money, huh? Big time.
Yes, sir.
All right.
If I could follow up on the gentleman very briefly, because it's the same exact question, slightly differently. If Mr. Beale had simply retired and not tried to get greedy and keep taking a full paycheck, he also would never have been discovered because he'd have been gone for over a year before the administrator would have even thought to ask. Is that right?
That is 100% correct, Mr. Chairman.
So is that the old pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered? I guess we should be happy he was that greedy. We now go to the gentleman from Utah.